Not cold enough for car to freeze up yet, is it?
No, no danger of that. We haven't had any frost yet.
I'm too exhausted to put it away. Another hour and I would be wiped out. That road seems to get longer and longer every time.
Your hot water is nearly ready.
Good.
Ooh, nice clean towels, and I've put out some of those scented soaps that you brought me last time.
What? Oh, those. Haven't you used them yet?
Oh, no, of course not. I've been saving for a special occasion.
And this is it?
Yes, a visit from you is always a very special occasion. Is this all your luggage?
When I said short visit, I really meant it.
Oh, such a long way to drive for just one night. You don't think you could
Stay longer?
Yes, just for 2 nights.
Impossible. We're right in the middle of exams. I would have to be in the classroom at 8:30 on Monday morning. In any case, I should be at home marking papers. I want to pile them with me just in case I get a chance up here.
Put anything you want washed to one side, and I'll get a message to Katrina first thing in the morning.
Don't bother her with that. I can do it myself.
You can't leave without seeing Katrina. She'll never forgive me, even if it's just for a few minutes.
I won't leave without seeing Katrina, Miss Helen, but I don't need her to wash a pair of pants and a bra for me. I can do it myself.
I just thought, oh, there's an empty drawer down here if you want to pack anything away.
Miss Helen, I know my way around by now.
It's just if I knew you were coming, I would have had everything ready.
Everything is fine, just the way it is.
No, it isn't. I don't even know if I've got enough in the kitchen for supper. I did buy
Miss
a
Helen,
tester.
if we need anything, I'll get Old Tip to open up his shop. Then again, I'm not hungry. Right now, all I need is a good wash and a chance to forget I've been in a car for 12 hours.
Now, be patient with me, Elsa. You know the old saying, patience is a virtue and...
Miss Helen, just leave me alone for a few minutes.
I'll go and get your hot water. I put the small one on for tea.
Let me do that. My turn to say sorry. No. Come now.
No.
I need to hear you say you forgive
Tell you
me.
the truth, I was getting on my own
Come
nerves.
on, come on.
Oh, you're really forgiven. It's no need to apologize.
Come now, sit down over here and stop worrying about me. Let's close our eyes, take a few deep breaths, and start again. Ready?
Ready.
1, 2, 3. And now?
Well, you know, if you really mean it, I'd want you to drive round the block again. And hoot 3 times like you always do. Where's he going now?
Did you look in there? Get in my car and arrive again.
Like that?
Why? What's wrong?
Elsa, Sterling Retief will get a heart attack if he sees you dressed like that.
But I wear less than this when I go to the beach. You old spoiled sport. Let's pretend.
Okay.
Bop, bop, bop.
Oh, very silly.
If my friends in Cape Town could have seen me there. You must understand, Miss Helen. Elsa Barlow is known as a serious young woman. A bit of a blue stocking. Not much fun there. I don't know what it is, but you caught me with these stockings down right from the very beginning. You have the rare distinction of being the only person to make me make a fool of myself and enjoy it.
Oh, you're not making a fool of yourself. What about me, nearly 70 and behaving like I was 7?
Well, let's face it, we both still have a little girl hidden away in us somewhere.
They like to play together.
Mine hasn't done that in a long time.
Oh, I didn't even know mine was still alive.
That she most certainly is. She's the first to come running out to play. You feeling better?
Oh, yes, much better.
That Karoo dust really gets in your pores. I can even taste it. That first cup of tea is going to be like mud. I'll boil up all the kettles tomorrow and have a really good wash. When last did you have one? Right, your name is down for one too.
many things about the way you did arrive, and thought I wasn't joking. I really thought I was seeing a ghost when you walked in. I heard the front door open, and I thought it was Katrina. She also never knocks. And there you were.
Go on.
It was so strange, almost as if you didn't want to see me or anything else at all. And so cross. I've never seen you like that before.
This isn't quite like all the other times, Miss Helen.
That's a pity. They were all good times. So what sort of time is this going to be? A bad one?
I hope not. Does it have to be? It depends on you. But you're right. I hadn't really arrived until now.
Where were you, Elsa?
Back on the road at the turn off to the village, or maybe a few miles further along, walking to Craddock.
What do you mean?
I gave a lift to a woman outside Grafton. I dropped her to turn off to the village.
Oh, who was she?
An African woman.
Oh, Craddock, that's a long walk.
I know.
Another 80 miles to the turn off.
I nearly didn't stop for her. You shouldn't signal that she wanted to lift or anything. Just didn't even look up when I passed. I was looking at her in my rearview mirror. Maybe that's what gave me the impression that she had a long walk ahead of her. The way she just kept her head down and carried on walking. And then the baby on her back. It was hot out there, Miss Helen. It was hot and dry and a lot of empty space. Not even a farmhouse in sight. She looked so small and insignificant in the middle of all that. So I stopped and I reversed and gave her a lift. Not very graciously, I'm afraid. I'd already been driving for 10 hours and I just wanted to get here as fast as possible. Anyway, she got in, and after a few miles we started talking. Not that her English was very good. But when I finally understood what she was saying, it added up to the typical South African story. Her husband, a farm labourer, had just died. And no sooner had they buried him than the boss had told her to pack up her things and leave. So there she was, walking to Craddock to find some distant relative and a place to live. She was about my age, and the baby couldn't have been more than a few months old. All she had with her was one of those plastic shopping bags we put our groceries in. A small pair of slippers. She was barefoot.
Oh, the poor woman.
Anyway, I dropped her at the turn off to the village, gave her what was left of my food and money, and she carried on walking, and I drove here.
Is there something else?
No, that's it.
I'm sure somebody else will give her a lift.
I hope so. If not, her and her baby are in for a long night beside the road. There's 80 miles of Karoo ahead of her. Back in Cape Town, I've heard myself speaking rubbish about its vast emptiness, its awesome stillness and silence, just like the trader up the road. It's so obvious to me where you Afrikaners get your idea of God from. It just beats me how you've put up with it for so long. Nearly 70 years. If it had been me, I would have packed up at the first opportunity, and let's face it, you've had plenty of those.
I was born here, Elsa.
Well, I sympathize, Miss Helen. I truly sympathize.
Not as bad as you make it sound. Every time I've been away, I've always ended up missing it and longing to be back.
Yes, because you wanted to get back to your work.
Oh no, long before that started. It grows on you, Elsa.
Well, she's just about the only growing it seems to do. As for the rest, it's as merciless as the religion they preach around here. On the drive up this afternoon, as I looked through the window, I think I finally understood a few things about you Afrikaners, and it left me feeling a little uneasy.
You include me in all you say.
Oh yes, you're still an Afrikaner. I mean, you don't go to church anymore, but you were in there with them every Sunday singing hymns for a long, long time. Bit of a renegade now, but you're still one at heart.
And that heart is merciless?
No. Many other things, maybe, but not that. I'm sorry. Sorry.
There's something else, in your voice, a sound I haven't heard before. You're still very cross, aren't you?
What do you mean?
Like the way you spoke of about that woman on the road, almost as if you didn't care, which I know isn't true.
Of course I cared. I mean, I cared enough to give her a lift and give her what's left of my food and my money. But I don't want to make a fool of myself. That was just a sop to my conscience. It wasn't a real contribution in all that she's up against. Anyway, what's the point of talking about her now? She's probably crawled up in a stormwater drain. That's where she said she'd spend the night if she didn't get a lift. And I feel much better for a good wash.
You know, there it is again.
What is the truth?
No, it's the way you said it.
You're imagining things, Miss Helen. Come, let's talk about something else. There's enough time to get serious later on. Tell me about the village. Your last letter didn't have much news on them.
Oh.
And what about it? How about a nice pot of tea?
All right. I actually haven't got any news. Because Katrina is the only one who really comes by anymore. All she wants to talk about is her baby. There is Marius, of course, but he never gossips.
He still comes snooping around, does he?
Don't put it like that, Elsa. He's a very old friend.
Good luck to him. Long may the friendship last. I'm sorry, Miss Helen, but it's just that I wouldn't want him as a friend. I don't trust your old friend, and I have a strong feeling that Dwermany, Marius Bielefeld, feels the same way about me. So let's change the subject. Tell me about Katrina. What's she up to these days?
Katrina is fine, and so is the baby. As prettily dressed these days as any white baby, thanks to the clothes you gave her. She always passes by my door, and she always drops in for a chat. Oh, you know, she always asks about you as well. It's just that Chris has started drinking again. Oh, and it's terrible. He's making all sorts of horrible threats about her and the baby. He still doesn't believe it's his child.
Is he beating her?
Oh, no. The warning you gave him last time seems to have put a stop to that.
God, I mean, why doesn't she just leave him?
And then do what?
Find somebody else. Somebody that values her as a human being and wants to take care of her and the baby.
Oh, she can't do that, Elsa. They're married.
That's the opera card I knew. I mean, there's nothing sacred about a marriage that abuses the woman. I must talk to her tomorrow. Let's make sure we get a message for her to come out.
Oh, no, don't make things more difficult for her, Katrina.
How much more difficult can things be than being married to a drunken bully? She does have a few rights, Miss Helen, and I just want to make sure she knows what they are. How old is she?
She's 17, I think.
At that age, I was still dreaming about my future, and there she is with bruises and a baby. Oh, quick, tell me something else.
Let me see. Oh, yes, I've got important news. The trader's got the whole village up in arms. Brace yourself, Elsa. She has applied for a license to a liquor store.
A what?
A liquor store, alcoholic beverages.
Booze in New Bethesda.
Yes, if you want to put it that bluntly.
There's headline material for you. Ah, good for old Gertie. I always knew that she liked a bit of a sundowner, but I didn't realize she had enough spunk to do that.
That's a joke about it, Elsa. It's a very serious matter. The whole village is very upset.
Headed, no doubt, by your old friend Marius Bielefeld.
That's right. I believe his last sermon was all about the evils of alcohol and how it's ruining the lives and health of our coloured folk.
Well, then tell her to demand a turn.
What, Katrina?
Yes.
No, that's...
Tell her to demand her right to state her case. And while she's up there, tell her that and remind her that the first miracle was water into wine.
Oh, no, you mean Katrina in the pulpit? That's terrible, Elsa. No, that's... You can't be serious.
Of course I am serious. That's why I want to know who you think is worse. Katrina for exploiting their misery, or the Dwermany deciding what's right or wrong for the coloured folk.
Oh, no, I think it's more complicated than that, Elsa. Marius is only thinking what's best for them. And you know, Katrina has offered to donate parts of the profits to the school building fund. You know, and what about Chris? If he gets a local supply, won't that make things more difficult for Katrina?
They're two separate issues, Miss Helen. I mean, you don't punish a whole community because one man can't control his drinking. And that raises yet another issue. Has anyone bothered to ask the coloured folk what they feel about all this.
Oh, are we going to have that argument again?
I'm not trying to argue with you, Miss Helen, but it does seem to me right and proper that if you're going to make decisions affecting other people, that you ask those people what they think.
Oh, it is the same argument. You know they don't do things like that here in the valley.
Well, it's about time they started. I don't make decisions affecting my school pupils without giving them a chance to say something. And they are children. We're talking like adult men and women in the year of 1974.
Those attitudes might be all right in Cape Town, Elsa, but here in the valley, they have a different way of doing things.
Well, it can't cut itself off in the 20th century forever. Honestly, coming here is like walking into the middle of a Chekhov play. While the rest of the world is hoping the bomb won't drop, you people are fighting over the cherry orchard. Your little world isn't as safe as you'd like to think, Miss Helen. If you think it's going to stagnate in the 19th century while the rest of the world is hoping it's going to reach the end of the 20th, you're in for one hell of a surprise. And we'll start with your coloured folk. They also read the newspaper, you know. And if you don't believe me, try talking to Katrina about something else other than the weather and her baby. I'm sorry, Miss Helen, but the contradictions in you make me want to scream. Why do you keep standing up for that bunch of bigots? I mean, look at the way they treat you.
Oh, man, then leave me alone now, Elsa.
That is not what you said in your last letter.
My last letter?
Are you saying you don't remember it?
No, I remember it.
And what you said in it?
Oh, please, Elsa, let's not talk about that now. I'm still all flustered with you arriving so unexpectedly. Let me gather my wits, and I'll go and make that pot of tea that you asked for.
What happened here?
Oh, don't worry about that. I'll get Quist to put a coat of paint over it.
But what happened?
One of the oil lamps started smoking badly when I was out of the room.
And new curtains.
Oh, yes, I got tired of the old ones. Look, I found a few Marie biscuits in the kitchen. Will you pour for us? So, do I get a chance to ask for some news now?
No.
Why not?
Because I didn't come up here to talk about myself.
Oh, that's not fair.
Well, it's boring.
Not to me, Elsa. Oh, come on, you asked me to tell you about the village gossip and I did my best. Now it's your turn.
Well, what do you want to know?
Everything you would have told me in your letters if you'd written them like you promised to.
Good and bad news?
I said everything, but make the good a little bit more than the bad.
Well, I still don't smoke. I run a few miles in the morning and I drink very moderately.
You're not saying anything about David?
Turn to the sad little paragraph. Young woman seeks friendship with young man, etc., etc.
If you're talking in riddles, I was asking you about David.
And I'm answering. I'm not saying anything about him because it's over.
Oh, you mean you and David?
Yes, exactly that. We're finished. We don't see each other anymore.
I knew something was wrong the moment you walked in at that front door.
If you think this is me with something wrong, you should have seen your little Elsie a few months ago. I was in a bad way. You were in line for one of these unexpected visits a lot sooner than this.
You should have come, Elsa.
I was going to. But your letter suggested that you weren't having a very good time either. If we got together, we would have come up with some sort of suicide pact.
I don't think so. I said joke about that, Elsa. Were you not going to tell me about it?
I'm trying to forget about it, Helen. There's another reason why I didn't want to come up here, which has left me with a profound sense of shame.
Of what?
Of myself. Of the whole stupid mess.
Mess?
Yes, mess. Have you got a better word to describe something so rotten and riddled with lies that your only sense of yourself is one of disgust?
And you were so happy when you told me about him on your last visit.
Oh, Miss Helen. That was more than happiness. That was like discovering the reason for being myself. For the woman that I am. For the first time in my life. And a little bit scary, realizing that someone else could do so much for me and for my sense of self.
But what happened? Was there a row or something?
Oh, row. There were plenty of those. They were just incidental. There had to be some sort of noise, so we shouted and we screamed and we cried. We did everything you're supposed to.
All I know about him is what you told me, and he sounded like such a good and a sensitive young man, well-read and intelligent and so right for you.
He was all that. But there's something else I haven't told you. He's married. He has a devoted and loving wife. Quite pretty, really. And a little girl. Shocked? You?
Yes. You should have told me, Elsa. I would have warned you.
That's exactly why I didn't. I knew you would. But I wanted to prove you wrong. In any case, anything you could have told me, I had told myself right from the beginning. But I wanted to prove myself wrong, too. You see, what happened was there were two very different ideas about what was going on. And we realized it too late. I was in it for keeps, Miss Helen. I believed that when the time came for him to choose, that I would be the lucky winner. That he would leave his wife and child and go with me. Oh boy, was I wrong. Ding dong, wrong, wrong, tolls Elsa's bell at the end of day.
Don't do that.
Defense mechanism, Miss Helen. I mean, I'm getting impatient for the time that I can laugh at it all. I mustn't make it sound like a complete bastard. I mean, he wasn't without a conscience. In fact, it was too big. The end would have been a lot less messy if he could just have walked away and closed the door behind him. But when that time finally came, he sat around in pain and torment, crying, God, this is awful, expecting me to tell him to go back to his wife and child. You should have seen him, Helen. He came up with postures of despair that would have made Michelangelo jealous. I know it's wrong to find somebody else's pain disgusting. But that is finally what happened. The last time he crucified himself on the sofa in my lounge, I felt like vomiting. He told me just once too many times how much he hated himself for hurting me.
Elsa, you poor thing. Come and sit here.
I'm all right now. You know what the really big word is, Helen? Like most people, I had thought it was love. And that is quite a big one, and quite an event when it comes round. But there's an even bigger one. Trust. And far more dangerous. Because that's when you drop your defenses, lay yourself wide open. And when you've made a mistake, you're in for big, big trouble because it hurts like hell. You ever heard of that story about the father teaching his son his first lesson in business? Well, I think it's supposed to be a joke, so remember to laugh. Daddy puts his son, little boy, high up on something or other, and he says, "Jump, don't worry, I'll catch you." And the little boy is scared, but Daddy keeps saying, "Don't worry, I'll catch you. Jump." And when the little boy has finally plucked up enough courage and does jump, Daddy doesn't catch him. And when the little boy has finally stopped crying because he's hurt himself, Daddy says, "Your first lesson in business, son. Don't trust anybody." I think if you tell it with a Jewish accent, it's supposed to be funnier.
Oh, I don't think that's funny.
Neither do I. I think it's ugly. That little boy will think twice about jumping in at this moment, so will Elsa Barlow.
Oh, Elsa, don't speak too soon. Life has surprised me once or twice.
I'm talking about trust. I mean, I can see myself loving someone again and not all that interested in it at the moment. There's an even chance it will happen again. Doesn't seem that we have much choice, but trust.
You can have the one without the other.
Oh, yes. That much I learned. I went on loving David long after I stopped trusting him. That's why life is just a little complicated at the moment. Some of that love is still hanging around.
I've never really thought about it.
Neither had I. It takes a betrayal to get you going.
I suppose I've been lucky. I've never had any important trusts to betray. Until I met you. My marriage to Stephanus might have looked like it, but it was habit that kept the two of us together. I was never open to him. Was that the word you used?
Wide open.
That's a good one, yes. I was never wide open to anyone. But with you, all of that has changed. So it's as simple as that. Trust. I've always wondered what made you and being with you so different from everything else in my life. And of course, that's it. I trust you. That's why my little girl can come out and play. All the doors are wide open.
So there you go, Miss Helen. You asked for the news.
Oh, I'm almost sorry I did. Oh, it's getting dark.
Still works. On the drive up here today, I wondered if the novelty would have worn off. But here it is again. You're a little wizard, Miss Helen. You make magic with your mirrors and your glitter. Never light a candle carelessly, and always be sure to know what you're doing when you blow them out. Remember saying that?
Oh, yes, to myself many times.
And to me. After you stopped laughing at the expression on my face the first time you looked at me. Light is a miracle, Miss Barlow, that even the most ordinary human being can make happen. We just finished having our first pot of tea together. I think I do take it all a little for granted now. But the first time, I wish I could make you realize what it's like to walk down a dry and dusty little road in a deserted village in the middle of the Karoo, bored to death by the heat and the flies and the silence that were driving me mad. And then to be stopped, and I mean stopped in your tracks by all that out there. And then having barely recovered, but to come inside to this. Believe me, Helen, when I saw your Mecca for the first time, I just stood there and gaped. I mean, what in God's name was I looking at? Camels and pyramids. with more colour and glitter than real birds. Heat stroke? Was I hallucinating? And then you, standing next to an old mask made of beer bottles, staring back at me like one of your owls. She's mad, a genuine Karoo nutcase. Everything they've told me about her is true. Doesn't look dangerous, though. Wait, she's smiling. Careful, Barlow, it could be a trick. They didn't say she was violent, though. Just mad. Mad as a hatter. Say hello. Go on. Take a chance and say hello. Hello.
You're exaggerating. It wasn't like that at all.
Oh, yes, it was.
And I'm saying it wasn't. To start with, I wasn't repairing a mosque. I was working on one of my mermaids.
The mermaids, I forgot about them.
And I was the one who spoke first. I asked you to point out the direction to Mecca, and you made a mistake, so I corrected you. And then I invited you in to look at the statues in the yard, and after that we came to have that pot of tea.
That's precisely what I mean. I mean, who would ever believe that they found themselves asked to point out the direction to Mecca? Not London or Paris or New York, but Mecca, by an old lady, surrounded by camels and owls and mermaids, made of cement. And then this, your miracle of light and colour. You were proud of yourself that day, weren't you, Helen?
Yes, I was a little proud.
Miss Helen, just a little.
All right then, not just a little. I've never been more proud in my life, ever. Nobody before you or since has ever done that to me. I was tingling all over with excitement as we walked around the yard, looking at the statues. All those years of working on my Mecca had at last been vindicated. I've got a silly little confession to make about that first meeting. When we came inside here, we sat around talking and drinking tea, and the light began to fade. I suddenly realized that I was beginning to feel shy. It got so bad I was half wishing you would get up and say it was time to go. You see, when I lit the candles, you were going to see all of me. I don't mean my face or my clothes. You've seen all of that out in the yard. I mean the real me. Because that is what this room is. I so wanted you to like what you saw. By the time I met you, I got used to rude eyes staring at me in my work, dismissing both of them as ugly. For 15 years, I lived with those eyes, and they didn't bother me anymore. But yours were different. In the short time that I got to know you, I ended up feeling, now I knew I could trust you. There's our big word again, Elsa. Yes, then finally, when I lit the candles, you walked around the room and you laughed. You laughed with delight. I had delighted you. If you only knew what you did for my life that day, the faith and the courage in it you gave me. Of course, all those years of being laughed at and thought a mad old woman had taken its toll, Elsa. By the time I met you, I hadn't been working for nearly a year, and I was beginning to think that I wouldn't ever again, that I'd reached the end. The only reason I've got for being alive is my Mecca. Without that, I'm nothing, a useless old woman getting on everybody's nerves. You revived my life. I've never been so impatient with darkness in all of my life. My Mecca was a long way from being finished. I sat up all that night waiting for the dawn to come so that I could go back to working and just go on working and working.
And that you most certainly did. On my next visit, you very proudly presented me with a very stern-looking Buddha. Remember, the cement was still wet.
Oh, yes, that was my next one, correct.
And then came the Easter Island head, the one with the top knot.
Correct, that's right.
And you still haven't explained to me what it's doing in Mecca. And for that reason, owls and camels and mermaids.
Oh, my Mecca's got a logic of its own, Elsa. Even I don't properly understand it.
Then my favorite, that strange creature, half cock, half man, on the verge of dropping his trousers. Really, Miss Helen.
I told you before that one is pure imagination. I don't know where that one comes from. And then he's not dropping his trousers, he's pulling them up.
And I remain unconvinced. Take another very good look at his face. That's anticipation, not satisfaction. Any surprises this time?
This time?
Yes.
No, there aren't any surprises this time.
Work in progress?
No, I haven't managed to get working since your last visit.
What about the moon mosaic? You're going to do it against the back wall, remember? And you're going to use the ceramic chip side order.
Oh, yes, but they are over there in the corner.
Yes, I know, in exactly the same place I put them 3 months ago. It seemed like such a good idea, and you were so excited about it, Miss
I
Helen.
still am. I still got them.
So then what's the problem? Why don't you roll up these sleeves and get on with it?
It's not as simple as that, Elsa. That is the trouble. It's still only an idea I'm thinking about. I haven't seen it as a picture yet. I've told you before, it's got to come to me inside like pictures. And if it doesn't, all I can do is hope that they will and wait. I wish I knew where they come from, but I can't force myself to see the pictures if they aren't there. I tried to do that before when I was desperate, and my work just ended up a lifeless, shapeless mess. All I can do is wait and hope that it will.
Go on, Miss Helen, I'm listening.
I tried to be patient with myself, but it's hard, Elsa. There's not that much time left. And my eyes and my hands are not what they used to be. The worst of all is, suppose I'm waiting for nothing, and there aren't any more pictures inside of me. I have reached the end. It's not that. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Elsa?
I think I do. Come sit down over here, Helen. It's time for us to talk about your last letter, Helen.
Oh, please, do we have to do that now?
Yes, we do.
Please.
Miss Helen, we only have tonight to talk.
Then don't spoil it.
That letter is the reason for me being here. You do realize that, don't you?
Yes, I guess that was the reason for your visit. But you must make allowances, Elsa. I wasn't feeling very well when I wrote that.
Well, that much is obvious.
I'm feeling ever so much better now. And with your visit, I know everything's going to be all right. I was in a bad depression when I wrote it. I regretted posting that. I thought of asking the postmaster if I could have the letter back as soon as I threw it in the post box.
Why didn't you? Or send a telegram, ignore last letter, feeling much better. 6 words, that would have done it.
I didn't think of that.
Well, you're wasting time. You wrote it, posted it, and I received it.
Please, can't we now just forget about it?
Miss Helen, do you remember what you said in it?
Vaguely.
That is not good enough.
What are you going to do now?
Read it.
No, I don't want to hear it.
You already have. You wrote it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yes, you must.
Please, Elsa, don't bully me. You know I don't know how to fight back. Not tonight. Can't we just...
Miss Helen, for God's sake, we only have tonight and a bit of tomorrow to talk. Miss Helen, I have driven 800 miles because of this. Without a break. Don't lie to me. You meant every word of it. I'm not trying to punish you for writing it. I've come up here because I want to help. My very own and dearest little Elsie, have you finally also deserted me? This is my fourth letter to you, and still no reply. Have I done something wrong? This must surely be the darkest night of my soul. I thought I'd lived through that 15 years ago, but I was wrong. This is worse, infinitely worse. I had nothing to lose that night. Nothing in my life was precious or worth holding on to. Now there is so much, and I am losing it all. You, my house, my Mecca. I can't find them alone, little Elsie. I need you. Don't you care about me anymore? It is only through your eyes that I now see my Mecca. I need you, Elsie. My eyesight is so bad that I can barely see the words I'm writing, and my hands can hardly hold a pen. Help me, little Elsie. Everything is ending, and I am alone in the dark. There is no light left. I would rather do away with myself than carry on like this. Your own ever-loving and anguished Helen. What is all this about you losing your house?
Oh, I exaggerated a little. They're not really being nasty about it.
Who?
The church council. They've discussed me. They said it's for my own good, and I know what they mean. It's just
Say it simply. I need to hear. What does the church council have to do with your house? I mean, I thought it was yours.
Yes, it is.
So,
It's not the house, Elsa. It's me. They've discussed me at one of their meetings.
they what?
That's how Marius put it. He said they're worried about me living here alone.
They are worried about you.
Yes, they're worried about my health.
When it comes to hypocrisy, and I mean blatant hypocrisy, you Afrikaners are in a class of your own. So what? Have they also discussed to trade the situation? Or what about Mrs. Van Heerden, who lives at the end of the village? They're about your age, and they also live alone.
That's what I said to Marius, but he said it was different with them.
In what way?
See, because of my hands and everything else, they don't think I can take care of myself anymore.
Are they right?
No, I can take care of myself.
So where are you supposed to go if you leave the village? To some niece 4 times removed who lives in Durban that you've only seen a few times in your life. The Sunshine Home for the Aged. So it's like that, is it? That's that lovely old village on the edge of Graafrenet as you drive through it, next to the church. In fact, it belongs to the church.
Yes.
That figures. It's got a lovely garden, quite beautiful. Every time I drive past, I always see a few old people in their twilight years, sitting around enjoying the sunshine. Well named. But this isn't your handwriting.
No, Marius filled it in for me.
Very considerate of him.
He's coming to fetch it tonight.
For an old friend, he's a little over-eager to get you on your way, Helen.
Sister, he said they've got a vacancy at the moment. They're usually quite full, and I haven't signed it yet.
How bad are your hands? Be honest with me.
Oh, I exaggerated a little. There's nothing wrong with them.
Can you still work with them?
Yes.
Is there anything you can't do?
No, I can do anything I want to, Elsa, if I make the effort.
Well, let me see them.
No, I'm ashamed of them. Please.
Come on.
No.
And these scabs?
That's just an accident I had at the stove. I was making some prickly pear syrup for you.
There seems to have been a lot of little accidents lately, Miss Helen. You better be more careful.
No, I will. I definitely will.
Any pain?
No, just a little.
So if I hadn't arrived tonight, what were you going to say to the woman when he came around?
I was going to ask him to give me a little more time so that I could think about it.
You were going to ask him, not tell him that you needed it.
I mean, I thought you knew what you wanted. Of course I do. Then what are you waiting for? I mean,
Tell me again, I need to hear it.
no, I can't leave here, Elsa.
Well, then what's the problem? Hand this back to him unsigned, thank him for his trouble, but tell him you're perfectly happy where you are and quite capable of looking after yourself. I thought this is what you wanted, Miss Helen.
I do, but it's just that Marius is such a persuasive talker.
Well, then talk back.
I can't, Elsa. I can't do that. I don't know how to. I can't you speak to him? You know so much better to argue how to do that. Please,
No,
Elsa.
I won't. And for God's sake, stop behaving like a naughty child on the way to the principal's office. I'm sorry, but the more I hear about your Marius, the worse it gets. I mean, if you want my advice, you better keep the two of us well away from each other. I won't argue on your behalf because there's nothing to argue about. This is not his house and certainly not his life that's being discussed at church council meetings. I mean, who the hell do they think they are, sitting around deciding what they're going to do with you?
Marius did say they were thinking what was best for me.
No, they are not. Dumping you in an old age home. You are still living your life, Helen, not drooling it away. The only way that they can get you out of this house is by having you certified. Don't worry. We all know you as mad as a hatter, but it's not quite as bad as that. So, when he comes round tonight, you're going to hand that back to him and you're going to tell him about your appointments to a doctor and an optician.
What do you mean?
Exactly that. Appointments to a doctor and an optician.
But I don't have any.
Well, you will on Monday. I'll get Trader to take you through. I'm not trying to be funny, Miss Helen, but you've got to prove to the village that you're quite capable of looking after yourself. It's the only way to shut them up.
You find it fast for me, Elsa.
Well, that's exactly right. How many times have we sat here and discussed this? And every time you say, I'm sorry, I'll think about it, Elsie. Your thinking has got us nowhere. This time you're just going to agree, and the same goes with getting Katrina in here a couple of times a week to clean the house.
I don't need her. I can manage by myself.
No, you can't.
Oh, I would have had everything spotless if I knew you were coming.
Miss Helen, it's got to be spotless all the time, not just on my visits and holidays. I don't live here, you do. And I'm concerned with your life. I'm not blind, you know. I saw you struggling with that heavy kettle. Yes, let's talk about that. When last did you boil up enough water to have a decent wash? Some time ago, right? Is it because of personal neglect that you aren't taking care of yourself? Or because you aren't able to? Answer me!
I can't listen to you any longer, Elsa.
Miss Helen, if you walk out that door, I'm getting in my car and I'm driving back to Cape Town. You wrote this letter. I didn't make it up. I have come up here to deal with it.
No, you're not.
Then what in God's name have we been talking about?
A doctor and an optician and Katrina coming in here a few times a week.
Do you want me to read it again?
No, you're treating that letter like it's a shopping list. That's not what I was writing about.
Then what is it?
What? Darkness, Elsa. Darkness. The darkness that nearly smothered my life in here nearly 15 years ago. The same darkness that came pouring down the chimney and into the room and frightened me when I was a little girl. If you still don't understand what I'm trying to say, then blow out the candles. Those were easy darknesses to deal with, Elsa. The one I'm talking about now is much worse. It's got inside me, Elsa. It's got inside me at last, and I can't light candles there. I never knew it would happen. I thought I was safe. That's all that little girl could think of when she lay there in a room, terrified of the moment when her mother would come and bend down and kiss her and take away the candle. one day she would have her very own. That was the promise, that one day she would leave one by my bedside for me to light as often as I wanted. That's all that getting big ever meant to me, my very own candle. Such brave little lass. And I taught that little girl how to be that. All my life they've given me courage. Until now. I'm frightened, Elsa. I am more frightened than that little girl ever was. And the prayers don't help anymore. There's no getting big left to wait for. And the candles don't help anymore. That was what I was trying to tell you. I am frightened, and Marius knows that. He's no fool. He knows that his moment has finally come. What moment? He's been waiting a long time for me to reach the end of my Mecca. I never thought that would happen. All those years he's been watching and waiting in the distance. I used to peep at him through the curtain, and he'd come walking past and stand there at the gate, with his hands behind his back, and stare at my statues. Although he didn't say anything, I know he didn't like what he saw. I used to sing when I was working. One day he came walking up to me and he said, "Are you really that happy, Miss Helen?" And I laughed. Not at him, believe me, not at him. I laughed because I had a secret. A secret he would never understand. But it's his turn to laugh now. The moat, of course, is far too gentle for that. He'll just come and close the shutters and pull the curtains like he did that night 15 years ago. My Mecca is finished, Elsa. And so is my life. I've had it. It's too much to cope with for one day. First that woman on the road, and now you. I honestly don't know how to handle it. In fact, at this moment, I don't know anything. I don't know what it's like to walk 80 miles to Craddock. And I don't know if your Mecca is finished or not. And the only thing that I know about darkness is that that's when you switch on the lights. So where does this leave us, Miss Helen? I'm lost. What are you going to say to him when he comes round tonight? Ask him, please, for more time. Because if there's one thing I can tell you right now, if you don't say no tonight, you might as well sign that form and get it over and done with. There's no point in talking about anything else until that's settled. So you better think about it, Helen. And while you do that, I'll see what I can organize for supper.
Anybody at home? Ah, Miss Helen. All alone in the dark? I didn't think anybody was at home. Ah, Miss Barlow. Feast your eyes on this, Miss Barlow, A genuine snowball potato. A pinch of salt and you've got a meal. And if you want to be really extravagant, then you add a little butter and you've indeed got a feast. You know, there was a farmer here from the Gamtoos Valley the other week trying to sell us potatoes. Can you believe it? We pride ourselves in these parts by knowing what a potato really is. And I brought you some beets and some tomatoes as well. I dug them up myself this afternoon.
Oh, it's very kind of you, Marius, but you really shouldn't have done.
Oh, it was no bother at all. I've got plenty put away for myself in the pantry. And it would have been a sin to let them rot away there in the ground when somebody else could have used them. And in our age, Helen, we need fresh vegetables. Mari biscuits and tea are not a balanced diet. You know, Miss Barlow, in the old days, Miss Helen had a very fine vegetable garden of her own right outside there. But as you can see, the humble potato has now been crowded out by other things. I don't think there's enough room left out there now to grow even a radish. But the Lord has been very generous to us this year. I don't know that we deserved it, but the rains came just when we needed them.
The Karoo looked very dry and desolate to me as I drove through it this afternoon.
But as you can see, Miss Barlow, the Karoo feeds us. Now what more can a man or woman ask from the little bit of earth that he lives on?
Do you think your coloured folk feel the same way about things?
Oh, why should it be any different for them?
Well, I was just wondering if they had as many reasons to be as contented as you are.
But I was talking about simple gratitude, Miss Barlow. Now, wouldn't you say that contentment is a more elaborate state of mind, one that can very easily be disturbed? But grateful? Yes. Our coloured folk have got every reason to be grateful. Ask them. Ask little Katrina, who visits Miss Helen here so faithfully, if she or the baby have ever wanted for food, even when Quirsa spent all his wages on liquor. No, there are no hungry people, white or coloured, in this village, Miss Barlow. And those of us who are more fortunate than others are well aware of the responsibility that that good fortune brings with us. But I don't want to argue with you. This is my world, and Miss Helen's. And we can't expect an outsider to love it or understand it the way that we do.
I'll just put these away for you, Miss Helen.
Oh, there's no need to unpack that now. I'll fetch the basket tomorrow after church. Oh, and there's no need to wash them either. I've already done that. You can just put them straight into the pot. Oh, you know, Helen, I do think that, given half a chance, your young friend and I could very easily end up in an argument. I think Miss Barlow gets a little bit impatient with our old-fashioned ways and attitudes. But it really is too late for us to change now. Right, Helen?
Elsa and I have already had those arguments, Marius.
Well, I hope you put up a very good defense on our behalf.
I tried my best.
And the two of you still remain friends?
Oh, yes.
And that's the way it should be. A true friendship should be able to withstand a difference of opinion. But, Helen, you didn't mention her coming up to visit you the last time we spoke.
Oh, because I didn't know it was an unexpected visit.
And will she be staying long?
No, just tonight. She goes back tomorrow.
Good heavens, that's a quick visit. I hope nothing is wrong.
No, she just decided on the spur of the moment to come and visit me. And she's got to go back to school again because they're right in the middle of exams.
Oh, I see. May I sit down for a moment, Helen?
Oh, yes, sorry, Marius. Forgive me, I'm forgetting my manners.
I won't stay long. I need to jot down a few thoughts for myself for tomorrow. And thanks to you, I know exactly what I'm going to say.
Me?
Yes, you. You are responsible for... Helen, don't just relax. I only say thanks to you because it came to me this afternoon while I was digging up your vegetables. I spent a lot of time while I was doing that, just leaning on my spade. You know, my back's been giving me a lot of trouble lately, and also I was just feeling very lazy. You know, I wasn't thinking about anything in particular, just looking the way an old man tends to do, and looking at nothing, remembering and saying the names. Spitzkop out there in the distance, and Athol Krantz at the other end of the valley. Oh, and the poplars, in their autumn foliage, standing straight and yellow as that candle flame. And then a lot of remembering. Now you know, Helen, when I first came here, I had very deep and painful wounds inside my soul. Wounds that I never thought would heal. Now this was going to be where I was going to escape from life, turn my back on it, and justify the rest of my existence by ministering to you people's simple needs. But I was wrong. I didn't escape from life here, Helen. I discovered it, what it really means, the fullness and the goodness of it. And it's a deep and lasting regret that my Aletta wasn't alive to share that discovery with me. But then all the time when these thoughts were going around in my mind, I was hearing a small little voice. And that small little voice was saying, thank you. With every time I turned the soil, when I went down onto my knees to lift the potatoes up out of the ground, there it was. Thank you. It was mine. It was me saying thank you. I was muttering away to myself the way we old folks sometimes do when there's nobody else around. It was me saying thank you. It was my voice that I was hearing inside my heart. Now, that's the voice that must speak tomorrow, Helen. I want to say thank you tomorrow in a way that I have never done before. Now, I know I've told you people to do that many times. But oh, the cleverness and conceit in the heart of Marius Bielefeld. You know, when I stood up there, I had an actor's vanity in that pulpit, Helen. Now, I'm not saying that I was being a total hypocrite, but while I was giving thanksgiving, I was listening to my Dominie's voice with its hoped-for eloquence, every bit as much as I was listening to that little voice in my soul, the voice that I heard this afternoon. Now, Helen, that's the voice that must speak tomorrow. And to do that, I need to find words as simple as the sky that I was standing under this afternoon, or the ground that I was turning over with my spade. They've got no vanities or conceits, Helen. They are just there. And if the good Lord takes pity on us, then the one gives us rain, so that the other one in turn can give us this day our daily potato. Am I making sense here? Answer me truthfully.
Oh, yes, you are, Marius. And if all you do tomorrow is say what you've just said to me, I think it will be very beautiful and moving.
Truly, Helen, do you really mean that?
Yes, every word of it.
Then I will do it. You know, Helen, next month is my 20th anniversary here in New Bethesda. Yes, that's how long I've been here. 21 years ago, on May the 16th, the good Lord took my Aletta to be at his side. And just over a year later, on June the 11th, I gave my first sermon here. Oh, what an occasion that was. I don't know if I looked at Helen, but I must confess to you now that I was more than just a little nervous when I stood up in that pulpit and looked down at that stern and formidable array of faces looking up at me. A very different cry from the town and city folk that I was used to ministering to. Oh, and then when Mr. Clark played the first bars of the hymn at the end of it, I breathed a huge sigh of relief. Nobody had fallen asleep. What's the matter, Helen?
No, it's just that young Mr. Clark came later. I think Miss Nebo was still our organist when you gave your first service.
Are you sure, Helen?
Yes, she also played at that reception we gave you at Mr. Van Heerden's house, and she played the piano, and then Sterling Retief sang.
You know, I do believe you're right. My word, Helen, your memory is better than mine.
And you had no cause to be nervous. You were very impressive.
Oh, yes, of course. You were at that first service. Ah, yes, and Stephanus was there at your side, as he was going to be every Sunday after that for what? The next 5 years?
5 years.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yes, it's a long time. It feels like another life.
Yes. Ah, there comes your supper. I must be running along.
Just a sandwich, Geordie. Neither of us is very hungry.
I'll come back tomorrow morning after church, if that's all right with you, Helen.
Won't you join us for a cup of tea? At least we can offer for all those lovely vegetables.
No, I don't want to intrude. Helen tells me that you're only here for just the night, Miss Barlow, and I'm sure that you two ladies have got lots that you want to talk about in private.
We've already done quite a lot of that, haven't we, Helen? Don't go because of me. I've got a lot of papers to see to, and I'll just take my tea through to the other room.
Elsa, please don't go.
Miss Helen, I've already told you I've got a lot of papers to mark. I'll just get on with it quietly while the two of you have a little chat. Please. All right. If it will help, I'll bring my work through and do it in here.
No. I can see that I've come at a very inconvenient time.
Not at all, Dominique. Miss Helen was expecting you. Yes, I was. How would you like your tea?
Oh, very well, if you insist. A little milk, but no sugar, please. Helen, are you quite sure you want to talk about this tonight?
Yes, Marius.
I could very easily come back tomorrow.
No, I'm ready.
There you go. But just before we get started, thank you. The good news is that I've spoken to Dominic Gericke in Graaf Reinet again, and he tells me that the room is definitely yours. That is, if you want it, of course. But, of course, it can't stand there empty indefinitely. Already he's broken the rules and pushed you to the top of the waiting list, just as a personal favor. You know, he understands the circumstances. But Helen, I want you to know that I do realize what a big move this is going to be for you. And you mustn't rush into anything or anything like that and start packing up immediately. But a decision has got to be made. So, let me see. Ah, yes. We put Stephanus' father's name down as Petrus Johannes Martins. Now, when I checked in the church registry, it's down there as Petrus Jacobus Martins. Now, which is it, Helen? You seemed so sure the last time of Petrus Johannes.
I still am. What did you say the other one was?
Petrus Jacobus.
What was Johannes? No, I'm not so sure anymore.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just write it down here as Petrus J. Martins. Okay, just as well I checked. And next, yes, the date of your confirmation. Have you been able to find the certificate yet?
No, I haven't, Marius. I did look, but my papers are all in a mess.
Yeah, and I've been through the records at the church as well, and there's nothing there that seems to shed any light on the subject. Look, it's not all that important, but it would have been nice to have that date as well. Let's see, what shall we do? You say that you were around about 12.
Yes, something like that.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just pencil in here 1920. And then I'm going to have another look for that certificate. But you surprise me, Helen, of all the dates to have forgotten. Well, that takes care of the form now. Just another point from Dominic Gericke, after which you could relax and enjoy your supper. Helen, Dominic Gericke has made the obvious suggestion that we make arrangements for you to pay a visit to the home, so that you can meet the matron and some of the other people there, and have a look at your room. He's particularly anxious for you to see the room, you know, so that you can know what you can bring with you from your side. He had a terrible to-do a few months ago with a lady who came there and tried to move a whole household of furniture into one tiny little room. But there's no need to worry, Helen. You'll have plenty of room in there for your personal possessions and, some of your ornaments. Well, that takes care of that now, I think. All that remains now is for you to sign it.
Marius, may I speak for a little bit now?
Yes, of course, Helen.
I've been doing a lot of thinking since we last spoke.
Well, that's good, Helen. I did suggest that you do that because this isn't something that you must rush into.
But I've been doing a lot of thinking and I worked out a plan.
For what, Helen?
A plan to take care of everything.
Well, excellent.
I'm going to see a doctor in Graafreinet. I'm going to make an appointment and Getrina will drive me in on Monday.
You make it sound very serious, Helen.
Oh, no, it's just some medicine for my arthritis.
Oh, well, that's good. You had me worried there for a moment. For a while I thought that the burns were a lot worse than we had realized at first. But, Helen, why don't you save yourself a few pennies and go and see Dr. Liver at the home? He treats all the people there free of charge.
Yeah, I'm also going to see an optician, Marius. I'm going to make arrangements to see an optician and get a pair of spectacles.
My word, Helen, you really have been making plans.
And finally, I'm going to ask Katrina to come in here a few times a week to take care of the house. Well,
Oh, Katrina?
yes, because Malgas is
No, I know what you're talking about. It's just that, oh dear me, I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, Helen, but I do believe that you're going to lose your little Katrina.
What do you mean, Marius?
Well, Quis has asked the Divisional Council for a transfer to their Aberdeen depot, and I do believe he's going to get it.
So?
Well, I imagine Katrina and the baby will be moving with him.
Katrina?
He's going to be leaving the village.
No, it can't be.
It's the truth, Helen.
No, but she said nothing to me at all about leaving, and she was in here a few days ago.
Well, maybe she didn't think it was all that important, Helen.
How could you say that, Marius? It is very important. She knows how much I depend on her. If Katrina goes, I'll be all alone in here, except for you at the times when Elsa is visiting.
Come now, Helen, it's not as bad as all that. Oh, I know that Katrina is a dear little soul and that you're very fond of her, as we all are. But there are plenty of women down in the location who can come in here and help you pack up if you decide to go. And I'll tell you what, if you're worried about a stranger coming in here with your personal belongings, I will lend you my very own Nonna. Now, she's been looking after me for the past 10 years, and in all that time, I've never missed a thing. You can trust her with your life.
I'm not talking about the servant, Marius.
Oh, I thought we were.
Katrina is the only friend I've got left in the village.
Oh, that's a very hard thing you're saying there, Helen. All of us in the village still regard ourselves as your friends.
I wasn't including you, Marius. You're different. As for the others, no. They've all become strangers to me. I may as well not know their names. And they treat me like I'm a stranger to them as well.
You know, Helen, you are being very unfair. All of them treat you in the way that you apparently want them to, which is to leave you completely alone. Really, Helen? Strangers? Olga Trader? Jerry? Boet? Sterling? Mrs. van Heerden? You grew up in this village with all of those people. You know, Helen, it's your manner which now keeps them at a distance from you. You know, I don't think you realize just how much you've changed over the past few years. You're not easily recognizable to them as the same person that you were 15 years ago. And then, of course, your hobby, if we can call it that, hasn't really helped matters. And then, this room, Helen, this isn't the sort of room that the village people are used to, or that the ladies would feel comfortable having afternoon tea. And as for that out there, well, the less said about that, the better.
I don't harm or bother anyone, Marius.
Does anyone harm or bother you, Helen?
Yes, they tried to force me to leave my home.
Nobody is trying to force you, Helen. Now, where in heaven's name did you get that idea? If you sign that form, it must be of your own free will. You're looking very agitated tonight, Helen. has something maybe happened here today that has upset you? You know, you were so reasonable about this all the last time we spoke. You seem to understand that our only motivation here was for your well-being. Helen, all we want is what is best for you, and then it's only by way of advice. No one can tell you what to do. But, Helen, if you want us to stop caring for you, well, I suppose you could do that. But I don't really think that our Christian consciences would allow that.
I don't believe the others care about me, Marius. All they want to do is to get rid of me. But this village has also changed over the past 15 years. I'm not alone in that. I don't recognize it anymore as this simple, innocent place that I grew up in.
But Helen, if you are as lonely and unhappy as all that, then I don't understand why you have any doubts about leaving.
Don't you stop me, Elsa. I'm going to sign it.
Do it! Sign that fucking form if that's what you want to do with your life. Just get it over and done with, for God's sake.
Miss Barlow!
What are you waiting for, Helen? It's late. You're wasting our time. We want you in bed.
But you said I mustn't sign it.
I've changed my mind. Hurry up and dispose of your life so that we can get on with ours.
Elsa, please stop it. I want you to help me.
Sorry, Miss Helen, but I have had more than enough woman battering for one day. That woman on the road couldn't say no, but you could. What do you expect from me?
I've tried, Elsa.
You call that trying? All it required was one word, no.
I did try, Elsa.
If that's your best, then maybe you are better off in an old age home.
Gently, Miss Barlow, for heaven's sake, gently. What has got into you?
Exhaustion, Rooney. Near emotional and mental exhaustion to the point where I want to scream. And I've already done that once today. And right now, I wouldn't mind doing it for a second time. Yes, Helen, I've had it. Why were you crying out to me in the dark? To be an audience while you sign away your life. Is that why I'm here? 12 hours of driving like a lunatic because of that. God, what a farce. I may as well have stayed in Cape Town.
Maybe it's a pity that you didn't. I think I understand now why Helen is so agitated this evening. But unfortunately, you are here. But if you've got anything more to say to her, then please have some consideration of the state she is in. She needs help, not to be harmed and terrified even more.
Miss Helen understands the way I feel. We did a lot of talking before you arrived, Germany.
I'm concerned with her feelings, Miss Barlow, not yours. And if you are as well, then you will show some respect for her age. Helen is a lot older than you are, and just now you were speaking to her as though she was a child.
You can accuse me of that after what I have seen and heard from you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Then I will tell you. You have been doing everything in your power to bully and blackmail her into signing that. You were taking the grossest advantage of what you call her confusion and helplessness. I am trying to tell her that she is neither confused nor helpless.
Ah, so now you know what is best for her.
No. I think she does. And if you had given her half the chance, she would have told you that it is not being dumped in an old age home. You forget one thing, Germany. I didn't stop her from signing that. She did.
It was a moment of confusion.
There you go again. I am trying to tell you that she's not confused.
The last time we spoke about this matter, she was quite prepared to sign that form.
Talk about her as if she's not here. She's right next to you. But ask Her, for God's sake!
Don't try to goad me with blasphemy, Miss Barlow. I'm beginning to think that Helen needs as much protection from you as she does from herself.
You still haven't asked her.
Because I have some sympathy for her condition. Look at her. Thanks to you, she's now in no condition to make any decisions about anything.
She was an emotional mess, thanks to you, before I opened my mouth. Don't expect me to believe that you really care about her.
For the last time, Miss Barlow, what you or do not believe is of absolutely no concern to me. But Miss Helen is. And it is my concern that she gets to live out what is left of her life on this earth as safely and happily as is humanly possible. And that does not include being trapped in here when this house goes up in flames.
What are you talking about?
Her accident. The night she knocked over the candle. You don't know about that? When was it, Helen? About 4 weeks ago? I see. So you haven't told your friend about your narrow escape. I think I owe you an apology, Miss Barlow. I assumed you knew all about it.
You owe me nothing. Just tell me what happened.
Yes, it was about 4 weeks ago. Helen knocked over a candle and set fire to the curtains. I try not to think about what would have happened if old Sterling hadn't been looking out at his window at that precise moment and seen the flames. Yeah, he came rushing over here, and just as well that he did, because at that stage, Helen had stopped trying to put out the flames. She was just standing there and staring at it. All the same, she did get some very nasty burns on her hands. We had to get Sister Lartigan out of bed over here to come and dress her, but it could have been worse. And you see, Miss Barlow, we don't want that on our consciences. So maybe now you can see that our actions are not as pointless as you might have thought them to be.
One of the lamps started smoking badly, and there was a little accident at the stove while you were making prickly pear jam for me. Boy, you really can do it, Helen. Don't let us ever talk about trust between the two of us again. That settles it. I'll let the two of you fight it out, and may the best man when I'm going to bed. Elsa, please let me explain. Good night. I'll make an early start, Helen. Please, Elsa, don't abandon me. Don't accuse me of that. You abandoned yourself, Helen. You were the first to jump overboard. You don't have enough faith in your life and your work to defend them against him. You lied to me, Helen. Such stupid, bloody lies. What was the point? For that matter, what is the point of anything? Why did you bring me up here? And then all our talk about trust. Boy, but you really can make me make a fool of myself. But this time, I don't think it's funny. In fact, I fucking well resent it. I didn't tell you because I was afraid you would agree with them. Don't say anything else, Helen. You're making it worse. But you might just have a point there, now that I've heard about your little accident. Corrugated iron and wooden walls. Give this place half a chance and it'll go up like a bonfire. And then he says that you were just standing there and staring at it. What was that about? They say that about fear, that you either like run like hell or you sort of stand there in a paralysis. Because it was just an accident, wasn't it? I mean, you weren't trying to do anything else, were you? take this house down with you in one final blaze of glory. It's a hell of a way to go. There are easier methods. Who are you?
Ladies, enough now, stop it! I don't know what's going on between the two of you, but in heaven's name, stop it now. I think Helen is now aware of the dangers, Miss Barlow. And now that you are as well, can we appeal to you to throw your weight in behind ours to persuade her to do what is right? I'm sure you can now see that all we were doing was for her own good.
You want my help?
Yes. If you now realize that is why we wanted to place her in an old age home, then yes, on her behalf, I am indeed appealing to you. We don't persecute harmless old women, Miss Barlow.
And one that isn't so harmless.
Now what are you trying to say?
Exactly that. That Helen isn't harmless. And I think you people know it. That's why you won't leave her alone.
We've been doing that for the past 15 years.
Stoning her house and statues is not leaving her alone. That is not the way you treat a harmless old woman.
In heaven's name, are you going to drag that up now? That was a long, long time ago, Miss Barlow, and those were children. It hasn't happened again since. You've seen what is out there. How do you expect the simple children of this village to react to all of that? It frightens them. I'm not joking, Miss Barlow. Think back to your own impressionable years as a young person, as a young girl. I know for a fact that the children of this village believe that this house is haunted and that ghosts walk around there at night. Don't scoff at them, Miss Barlow. I'm sure there must be evil spirits and monsters in your childhood. Anyway, it was a long time ago. And once we realized what was happening, we put a stop to it immediately. Mr. Laterham, the school headmaster, and I lectured them in the sternest manner possible. Come now, Miss Barlow. Have you learned nothing about us in the few years that you've been visiting this village?
Much more than I'd have liked to. But those children didn't come to their attitude of Miss Helen on their own. I've also heard the stories about parents that frighten their naughty children with Miss Helen's monsters. Those children got the courage to throw stones because of what they heard their mothers and fathers saying. And as far as they're concerned, Helen is anything but a harmless old woman. God, we can stand here and discuss poor, frightened Miss Helen, when in fact it's all of you who are really frightened.
As I said to Helen, that was all a long time ago. She grew up with all those people in the village, and they have known her a lot longer than you have.
Not so. And you said so yourself. When 15 years ago she didn't resign herself to being a meek little church-going widow you all expected her to be. Instead, she dared to be different. Which does make you right about one thing, Gordon. Those statues out there are monsters. Because they express Helen's freedom. Yes, I didn't think it was a word that you would like. A free woman around these parts. God forgive us. You ever wondered why I drive up here, Germany? It's a hell of a long drive, if the only reason is to visit an old lady that nobody visits anymore. And it's certainly not for the scenery. She challenges me, Germany. She challenges me into an awareness of myself and of my life and my responsibility to both that I have never had until I met her. One dusty, dry I was walking down that road, hoping for nothing more than a place to get away from the flies that were driving me mad, I met the first truly free spirit I have ever known. And it is her betrayal of all that tonight that has led me to behave the way that I have.
You call that nightmare out there an expression of freedom?
Scary, isn't it? What did you call it? Her hobby. Oh no, Jordan. It's much more dangerous than that, and I think you know it.
In another age, another time, that would have been called idolatry.
Did you hear that, Helen? You do realize what you just said, don't you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed I do. I too am choosing my words very carefully, Miss Barlow. You see, when I first realized that it was my duty as a friend and a Christian to try to persuade Helen to move to an old age home, I did it on the basis of her physical well-being and safety only. Helen will tell you that that is all we have ever talked about. And I came here tonight to do once again only that. But you, Miss Barlow, you have raised other issues and talked about other things, which forces me now to do the same thing. Because you see, it is now more than Helen's physical safety that is worrying me, and gravely so. That expression of freedom out there has crowded out a lot more than just a few fresh vegetables. I do not take them lightly anymore. I remember the first one very clearly, Helen. I remember mistakenly smiling at it, dismissing it as a whim to get rid of your loneliness. In fact, I think that is the way you yourself described it to me. Something to pass away the time. I was very wrong, wasn't I, Helen? And very slow in realizing the truth. And that truth only dawned on me that first Sunday that you weren't in your place. I stood up in the pulpit, and when I looked down at the congregation, I saw immediately that you weren't there. But even then, I thought you were ill. So after the service, I hurried over here, but you weren't in bed. Instead, you were out there, making it another of those... I don't even know what to call them.
That was an owl, Marius. My first owl.
And it couldn't have waited until after the service, Helen?
No. The picture had come to me in the night before. I had to go to work immediately while it was still fresh in my mind. They don't last long, Marius. After a while, it becomes very hard to remember clearly what you saw. But don't think that missing church that Sunday was something I did lightly. Don't take the habits of a lifetime without realizing that that life will never quite be the same again.
Helen, I grieve for you. You turned your back on your church, and then your faith, and then on us for that. Don't you realize that that is now why you are in such trouble and so deeply alone? Helen, statues out there can't care for you or love you the way that we wanted to, and God knows we wanted to do exactly that. But you turned your back on us, Helen. You spurned us and left us for the company of those cement monstrosities.
Listen to me, Helen. And listen to me carefully, because I think if you understand what I'm going to say, it's all going to be all right. They are not just frightened of you. They are also jealous. It's not just the statues that they're throwing stones at. They are throwing stones at something much bigger than that. You. Your beautiful, lightful, glittering life. And they can't leave it alone because they are so jealous of it. Is that true, Marius?
Has your trust in me been eroded away to the extent that you can even now ask me that? Does she now have so much power over you that you believe anything that she says to you?
Then it isn't true?
Dear God, what is there left for me to say or do that will make you listen to me the way you now listen to her?
But I have been listening to you, Marius.
No, you haven't. If you had, Helen, you wouldn't be making me defend myself against the word of somebody who knows nothing, absolutely nothing, about my true feelings for you. I feel as if I am on trial here, Helen. For what? For caring about you? That I am afraid of what you have done to yourself and to your life. Yes, that is true. That when I find that the past 20 years and all that we have meant to each other in that time are outweighed by just a few visits from her, then yes, again, that does leave me bewildered and jealous. Don't you realize that you are being used here, Helen? She as much as admitted to that. And for what? For some lunatic notion about freedom? And yes, while I am on that subject, yet again, I do hate that word. You are not free, Helen. If anything, just the opposite. Don't let her deceive you. Helen, if there is one last thing that you will let me do for you, let it be this. See yourself as I do, and tell me if that is what you call being free. A soul that I have cared about as much as any that other that I have ever known. Trapped now finally in the nightmare that this house has become, with only an illiterate little colored girl and a stranger from another world as your only visitors and friends. I know that I am not welcome in here anymore. I can feel it the moment I walk in through that door. It's unnatural, Helen. Your life has become as grotesque as those creations of yours out there. Why, Helen? Why? I will carry that question with me to my grave. What in heaven caused you to turn your back on the life you had, your faith?
What life? What faith, Marius? The one that brought me to church every Sunday? No. You were much too late if you only started worrying about that on the first Sunday I wasn't there in my place. The worst had happened long before that. All those years when I sat there so obediently, as Elsa said, next to Stephanus, had all been a lie. A terrible, terrible lie. I tried hard, Marius. I tried hard. But the sermons and the prayers and the hymns, they'd all just become words. And after a while, even they lost their meaning. My faith had become as meaningless as a handful of cold, grey stones.
Only you had trusted me enough to come to me, Helen. We could have worked through this together. I would have given my soul to help you win back your faith.
It felt too late. Nothing more was going to happen to me except time and the emptiness I felt inside. And I got used to that. Until that night after Stephanus' funeral. I've never told you about that night, Marius. I've told no one, not even Elsa. Because it was a secret. And it had to stay that way while I was working on my Mecca. But so much has happened here tonight that it feels right to do so now. You brought me home from the cemetery, remember? And when we got inside the house, you helped me off with my coat and then you put on the kettle for a pot of tea. And then, ever so thoughtfully, you closed the shutters and you pulled the curtains. I know you only meant well by that you didn't want people to stare in at me and my grief. But in doing that, it felt as if you were putting away my life. Your words of comfort and help, and was it your fault? You didn't know that I wasn't mourning Stephanus' death. He was a good man, but I never loved him. My black widowhood was really for my own life. When he was alive, at least there had been some pretense of a life I hadn't lived. You lit a candle for me here before you left, and I sat here a long time with it. That candle did all the crying in here that night. I don't know how long I sat here just staring at it. I I'd surrendered myself to what was going to happen when it went out. But instead, that small, uncertain light seemed to find its courage again. It started to burn brighter and brighter. I didn't know whether I was dreaming or awake anymore, because a strange feeling came over me. And it was leading me far away to a place I'd never been to before. Light the candles, Elsa. Those ones first. You know why, Marius? Because that is the east. Go out there into the yard and you'll see that my wise men and their camels are all traveling in that direction. Follow those candles on, and one day you'll come to Mecca. Yes, that is true, Marius. That is what I did that night, and it was the candle that you lit that led me there. It's a city, Marius. A city of light and color, more splendid than anything I've ever imagined. There were palaces and beautiful buildings everywhere, with dazzling white walls and glittering minarets. Strange statues filled the courtyard. The streets were crowded with camels and turbaned men speaking a language I didn't understand, but it didn't matter, because I just knew. I knew it was Mecca. And I was on my way to the grand temple. In the center of Mecca there is a temple, Marius. And in the center of the temple there is a vast room with hundreds of mirrors on the walls and hanging lamps. And that is where the wise men of the East study the celestial geometry of light and color. I became an apprentice that night. Like them all, Elsa, so that I could show Marius what I had learned. Letting the light of one little star, and the dancing starts. From mirror to mirror to mirror. This is my world, and I have banished darkness from it. Madness, Marius. They say mad people don't know the difference between what is real and what is not. I do. I know my little Mecca out there for what it really is, and this room. I have learned how to bend rusty wire into the right shapes to make my wise men and their camels, how to grind down beer bottles in a coffee mill, to put glitter onto my walls. This is the best I could do. As near as I could get to the real Mecca. I won't be needing this, Marius. I can't reduce my world to a few ornaments in a small room in an old age home.
Mecca. So that's where you went. I look for it on my atlas of the world when I get home tonight. You traveled a long, long way from here. I never realized that you had traveled that far away from me. I suppose to find you, I shall have to light a candle and follow it to the east. No. No. I am too old now to make that journey. Somehow, I think you are never coming back again.
I'm also too old for another journey, Marius. It's taken me my whole life to get here. I know I've probably disappointed you. Most probably bitterly so. But please believe me, it wasn't my intention. I had as little choice over all that has happened here as I had over the day that I was born.
No. No, I think I do believe you. Which is what makes it all the more harder to accept. You see, I always thought that I was going to be able to reach you. That one day we would find each other again. And then just be together for what was left of our time on this earth. It seems so wrong, so terribly wrong, that that is not going to happen. Aletta's death was wrong in exactly the same way. Trying to go. It's so hard. Trying to find the first moment of a life that must be lived in the shadow of something that is just so terribly wrong.
We are trying to say goodbye to each other, aren't we, Marius?
Yes. Yes, it had come to that. I never thought that that was going to happen here tonight. But there is nothing else left to say. remember to blow out all the candles before you go to bed tonight, Helen. I've never seen you looking as happy as that. There was more light in you then than all of your candles put together.
I must do that. Are you all right, Elsa?
No.
What's wrong?
My turn to be jealous.
Of what?
Of you. And Helen, stupid as it may sound, you're fucking lonely as well.
You are jealous of Marius and me? With your whole life ahead of you.
Even that woman who's got a baby in her arms tonight. She's got something, for God's sake. Mind you, it's cold out there. It might be on her back again. She's probably crawled out of that storm-water drain and carried on walking to keep warm.
Leave that poor woman alone now, Elsa.
She won't leave me alone, Helen.
For all you know, she might have got a lift.
Lift where, for God's sake?
Elsa, you don't mean that.
Yes, I do. She doesn't have Mecca waiting for her at the end of the road. Just the rest of her life. And there won't be any glitter on it. And the sooner she realizes what the score really is, the better.
Think about the baby, Elsa.
Of course I am. Do you think I don't care? That baby could have been mine, Helen. I may as well vomit it all out tonight. 2 weeks after David left me, I discovered that I was pregnant. I had an abortion. Do you understand what I'm saying, Helen?
Yes, I understand.
I put an abrupt and violent end to the first real consequence my life has ever had. There's a little sequel to my story about the lift that I gave to the woman. After I dropped her the turtle, after I gave her what was left of my food and my money, after she stopped thanking me over and over and saying God would bless me. After all that, I asked her who she was. She said, My English name is Patience. Hitched up her baby, tightened her duck, picked up her little plastic shopping bag. And as I watched her measure out the next 18 miles of her life, I felt like screaming. And about a few miles further along in the cliff, I did exactly that. I stopped my car, turned off my engine, and I screamed. I think I finally lost control of myself. I mean, I have never screamed that loud. I can't explain it to you, Helen, but I hated her. I hated that baby, and I hated you for dragging me all the way up here. And most of all, I hated myself. That baby is mine, Helen. Patience is my sister. You are our mother, and I still feel fucking lonely.
Why were you being so cruel to us tonight? There were times in here when I hardly recognized you. Why were you doing that?
I wanted to punish us.
For what? What had we done to deserve that?
I've already told you. For being bold. For being black. For being born. For being 28 years old and trusting enough to jump. For our stupid helplessness.
Don't punish me for that, Elsa. Only time when I felt helpless tonight was when I thought I had lost you.
So what do you want me to do?
Stop screaming.
And cry instead?
Yes, what's wrong with that? Is it something to be ashamed of? I wish I still could. Not for myself, but for Patience and a little baby. Was it a boy or a girl?
I don't know. I will never know.
I'll be alone. I doubted that for a moment. God, what a day. I'm dead, Helen, dead. Oh, you're just tired, and you've got every right and reason to be. Listen,
I wasn't much help tonight, was I?
you were more than that. You were a challenge. I like that word.
But we didn't solve very much, did we?
Oh, it's as much as we could do, Elsa. The rest is up to myself. I won't lie to you. Can't say to you that I'm not frightened anymore. But I can say that I understand something a little bit better now. The road to my Mecca was one I had to travel alone. It was one on which no one could keep me company. And that's why, now that I'm there at the end of it, it's only me. Couldn't have been any other way. I meant what I said to Maurice. This is as far as I could go. My Mecca is finished. And with that, I must try and say it, mustn't I? The only real purpose my life has ever had. I was wrong to think I could banish darkness, Elsa. Just as I taught myself how to light candles. And what that means, I must now teach myself how to blow them out. And what that means. The last phase of my apprenticeship. And if I can get through that, I'll be a master. I'm cold. I'll put on a cup of tea, and then we go to bed. With the kettle on. I did make one. I won't have it pointing up to heaven like all the rest.
No? What would it be doing?
Oh, come on, Elsa. You know. I'd have it pointing to the east. I'd misdirect all the good souls around here and put them on the road to Mecca.
God, I love you. I love you so much it hurts.
What about trust?
Open your arms and catch me. I'm going to jump.